Hi, it's Erica with Presence in Parenting. I wanted to do a short little video about tantrums. This is going to be for older babies and toddlers. If your child is older and still having tantrums, this information is still really important because they're probably still having tantrums because we didn't really help them with appropriate responses when they were younger. That's okay. You're here now and you're going to be able to take this information and actually help them. The goal here is that we're not raising adults who are going to walk around having big tantrums. Okay? When we don't learn as children and as babies how to deal with these big feelings that we have, we are those adults, and I'm sure you can think of at least 2 or 3 right now in your mind that you know of, who go around having big angry outbursts, kick things, throw things. These are people who were never taught, whether they were young children or older children, by their parents how to have big feelings and then how to deal with them in a different way rather than having a tantrum. So, in order to prevent this, we need to be able to respond to tantrums appropriately. In order to be able to respond to tantrums appropriately, we need to know what we're seeing. What's happening here? So basically, when we think of tantrums, there's 2 camps. There's 2 kinds of tantrums that your child is showing you. One is a tantrum of full body distress. This is when it really looks like your child is in pain. This is when it really is apparent and clear to you that your child is no longer in control of their body. Okay? There are rarely coherent words or sentences, if your child is verbal, that come with these kinds of tantrums. If they are talking, they're saying things that probably are not making a lot of sense to you. There is a lot of screaming. There's the tears streaming down the face. There's the mucus coming down the face. There's, contortions in the body and looks of pain happening. These are our physical body distress tantrums. They need help. When we see these kinds of tantrums in a young child and even in an older child, if you're really seeing this complete overwhelmed physical distress, they are no longer in control of themselves. They need you. These are the tantrums where we move towards the child, and it either could be sitting next to them closely. Remember, sometimes physical touch does not feel good to every child. If your child does respond to physical touch, then give them some of that. If they need to be held, they need to be physically calmed before they can talk about what happened. So asking them questions and talking to them with a lot of words isn't really going to help them. What is going to help them is your physical presence and your ability in that moment to be calm. Okay? What happens over time is that the vagus nerve, which is the oldest, most primitive, and strongest nerve in the human body, it connects right to the right side of the brain, and it goes through your heart into your gut. It really regulates all your bodily functions. When children have these kinds of disruptive distress tantrums, and then you are able to help them calm down, that vagus nerve learns how to regulate over and over and over again all the body systems, the brain and the body systems. This is such an important lesson to teach your children. Okay, that's with distress tantrums. Again, if you have an infant or a toddler, use this consistently as much as possible and you will strengthen that vagus nerve. If you have an older child who is still having these kinds of tantrums, realize this is a physical part of themselves that is not yet developed. We cannot expect them to get a hold of themselves because they don't know how. Okay? They now need you to help them. Even though they're older, they still need you. Please help them with this. You can teach them now. It's not too late. It's not too late. This is why people who have angry outbursts and tantrums as adults can be in therapy, any form of therapy, and it works, is because there is a responsive person there helping them learn how to deal with it. Okay? Your child still needs you. Please help them with this. That's those physical distress tantrums. The other kinds of tantrums I'm going to call protest tantrums. These are the tantrums where they just don't like what you've done. They wanted to do it themselves. Get off my body. You can't make me. These are times where they're vying for control And they are trying to manipulate the situation. I want us to be really clear that when I use the word manipulate, it does not mean like another adult is trying to manipulate you. Children do not have the cognitive ability to think and plan the same way that adults do. So when we say that they're manipulating, they're just trying to figure out, how do I get what I want in this moment? That's very fair for a child to learn. That's actually their job. We don't put the negative connotation of the word manipulate on it as we would when we're talking about manipulative adults, okay? Children are learning how to be a part of the world and how to be in relationship with you. So they're trying to figure this stuff out. Let's give them a little space to do that. So these protest tantrums are about control. They are about manipulating in the way that I just described. These actually need you to not move close. These actually need you to let them know, here's the boundary, here's the limit, and I'm done with this right now. They may be making a lot of noise. Ah! We don't respond to this. I'm not going to suggest you actually walk away from them and leave the room, especially if they're very young. If they're very young, this might be frightening to them, and you can easily throw this kind of protest tantrum into a distress tantrum. So let's keep it the way that it is. Let's not abandon them and walk away. However, you're not going to feed this tantrum. You're not going to give this tantrum attention like you would the distress tantrum. You're going to let them know, sorry, but it's time to get dressed. This is what we have to eat. I'm not going to pull the Cheerios down right now. Whatever the boundary is. Usually it's food, dressing, or young kids and toddlers getting in the car seat, getting in the stroller, anytime where they're physically not going to be able to move around. Once they can move around, they really start to protest in those moments, right? We could probably do a whole thing about car seats and a whole thing about food and a whole thing about getting dressed. But the point is that we have to notice the difference between whether we're just protesting and whether we're in full distress. So how do we see the protest tantrum? Usually there are not tears. And again, I'm talking about babies and young children. There are not tears. There may still be a lot of noise. They're fully in control of their body. They may be going, but they're kind of looking at you with one eye, okay? These are the things where you can tell they're still in control. They don't need you to move closer. They don't need you to help them calm down. What they need you to do is to hold the limit and the boundary that you've set and give them that clear message that you are still calm and that you're in charge of what's happening here. The tantrum will wind itself down, all right? Older kids having these kind of protest tantrums may have learned how to let the tears go in order to manipulate the situation. So again, with older kids, we have to do a little bit more detective work, and we have to figure out, are they really in control of themselves or not at this moment? And you know your child better than I do. So you are the one who's going to be able to see this much better than I am. But if you would like help with this, you're not quite sure, please get in touch with me, and I will be happy to help you with discerning between a real physical distress tantrum and a protest tantrum in these older kids, because it is so important that you respond to these tantrums differently in order to help them learn how to react and respond appropriately when they feel stress. All right, so that was my little ditty about tantrums. It's a huge subject, but I wanted to give us a good overview that there are two kinds of tantrums. You're going to respond to each one differently, and with different ages, to remember that they still need you. Young kids, it's easy to look at them and know that they need you. Older kids, it could be harder. So I want you to really keep this in mind, that when you see your child is literally out of control, think physically, biologically. There are parts of their physical system that are not yet developed. We haven't provided the experiences yet for those parts to be able to take control and for them to calm themselves. They still need us. All right, comment below. Tell me what you think about what I'm saying. Ask me a question. Find me on Facebook. I'm getting all over the place now. Please get in touch with me because I'd like to help you with the tantrums that are happening in your family. All right, take care.